background noise at your end.
Um, yeah, that I'll just try to be louder. Don't
Sure.
worry.
All right, so we are online now, Puneet. So hello everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us in today's webinar on data analytics. My name is Ravi Raman, and I'm the program manager for the data analytics course at UpGrad. So before we get into the actual webinar, let me just first take some time to give you some a quick introduction about UpGrad. I'm sure that because you are here and are attending this webinar, you guys would have some idea of what UpGrad is. But for those of you who don't know, UpGrad is an online education platform, and our aim is to create academically oriented and industry relevant courses for working professionals. And the reason why we started off with this venture is based on the fact that in today's world, companies are changing very rapidly and for the jobs. Today's workplace puts a lot of demands on its employees, and so the employees, which is us, will have to keep picking up new skills as we progress in our careers, right? But not everyone has the luxury to quit their jobs and pursue a course, a program in a university full time. Uh, and obviously sacrifice 2 years of their earnings, professional life, and personal life, which is where UpGrad comes in. So we intend to create, like I said before, academically oriented and industry relevant courses for working professionals. Now, moving on to analytics, no wonder analytics is one of the most prominent fields in and it's very likely why it's very understandable why. The analytics has a lot of potential and offers a lot of opportunities across industries to companies to improve their efficiencies, to bring out new innovative ways of doing business, etc. And which is why a lot of industries are now going through a transforming in a very drastic manner because of analytics. And IT is one of them. And the e-commerce is yet another example where such a change is taking place, right? So when we hear about analytics, we get a lot of questions, which is what exactly is analytics? How is it helping companies? What are the different rules in analytics? What do these rules mean? What exactly is a data scientist, etc., etc. To talk about some of these things and to answer all these questions, we have Puneet Gambhir here with us today. He's the VP of Analytics at Lasda Group. Puneet is a very accomplished analytics professional and has extensive experience in e-commerce. Uh, so Lasda Group is one of the leading e-commerce companies in Southeast Asia, and he works out of Singapore. Prior to this, he has also worked in data science for Flipkart. So what I'm going to do now is invite Puneet to talk on the topic at hand. We are going to discuss a lot of topics on analytics in general and how it applies to e-commerce in particular. Keep posting any questions that you may have on the chat window or to the right of your screen. We'll try to answer as many of them as possible towards the end of the webinar. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Ravi. Welcome all. And just if some of you can confirm if I'm audible enough, if you can just comment on the chat so that I know that my voice is loud and clear. So I just want to check if I'm audible enough before I start. If some of you can just put in comments on the chat confirming that I'm audible, I'll start. Okay, I've got the first audible remark. So that's a start. I would start. I'm assuming that if one person can hear me, then most of you should be able to hear me because you have the same link and the access. So yeah, thank you for the introduction, Ravi. And I'll just add a little bit to that before starting. So I've been into analytics industry for more than 10 years now. Started with Genpact in Bangalore, moved on to Tesco, the UK retailer. Then was in UK for a couple of years with a company called EXL Services, and then with Flipkart, and now with a company called Lazada, which is a Southeast Asia e-commerce company funded by Alibaba. And just like India, Southeast Asia is the next place where e-commerce is booming, and there's a lot of action going on here. So a lot of experience into e-commerce, and that's why we kept this presentation specific to analytics for e-commerce. But having said that, see, I believe that analytics is something which is industry agnostic. yes, there are certain techniques, certain topics which are more relevant to one industry compared to the other. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely qualified more to speak about e-commerce than others. But what I would say is that just whatever I'm talking about, a lot of it will apply to other industries also. So you can use it that way. I will keep a tab on the questions that you are putting on the window. And given that it's a 1 hour presentation, I will try to cover it in such a way that we get some time for the questions also. I can't obviously take all the questions. So I'll try to pick ones which I would feel are the most relevant for the audience. So that's how we'll go about it. So now I'm going to share a presentation. We'll quickly go through that, and then at in middle, if I see any relevant questions, I'll take that up as well. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. So, okay, just trying to see if I how I can. Okay. So yeah, so this is. I hope you can see the screen now. Okay, so I'll get started. So here is the agenda that I intend to cover. I would talk about analytics as an industry, which to some extent you would already be aware of, but I'll just provide a more insider view on that. I will talk about e-commerce and how e-commerce and analytics together makes a lot of sense. We'll have some sample case studies. I mean, not obviously not in any detail, but just more like problem statements and what kind of techniques are applied to that. Then we'll talk about skill sets that are required in analytics, data sciences, and the big data, which is the next subject. We'll talk about other roles which are related to analytics, but not exactly analytics. How do we differentiate between these roles? Which skills are more important for one compared to the other? And some tips to to strengthen your profile in analytics if you are looking to get into analytics or you're already into analytics. And questions we would anyways keep on taking while I'm talking about this. So that's the agenda. I hope that is something which you find relevant. Okay. So let's start with seeing what analytics as an industry is. So I mean, well, it has definitely evolved a lot over last decade or so. As of now, it has services as well as a product model. So when we say services, it's essentially companies like Genpact, WNS, Accenture, who provide analytics resources to clients who do projects on an ongoing basis, ad hoc basis. Product where analytics and data science products are available for companies to use, and it could be a subscription based or it could be a SaaS based model, but essentially it's a product which is driven by data analytics and science. But instead of the FTE model, there's a technology which is on offer. Now, analytics is related to but different to BI, business intelligence, data engineering, visualization, data sciences, machine learning and AI, product management, consulting. So we'll talk about this in a little more detail at a later stage. It's to be into analytics, the person needs to have a blend of these particular skills: programming skills, business understanding, statistical knowledge, program management, storytelling. I'll talk about these as well a little later. Well, a good way to know if you are into analytics is if your work, which is data driven, is influencing a business decision. It's used in a technology to essentially define the features of the technology, or it is used to define, improve, streamline any business process. Um, Again, we'll talk about examples as we go ahead. So now coming to e-commerce. Now, again, as I said, that e-commerce is just one of the fields where I happen to have some experience, and therefore I can talk about it. It's actually a subset of the whole digital revolution that the world is going through right now. And e-commerce is one specific case where it's a sale of goods, but there are many other digital businesses which is non-e-commerce, but still are very similar when it comes to data analytics. So it will be better to think about this subject as a digital analytics kind of a subject rather than e-commerce specific. And the best case is the best part is that this industry is very new, very data driven, very technology driven. It is what is shaping the future. It is what is making lives interesting. So think about obviously all the social platforms, all the services that you can avail through internet today, e-commerce, obviously things that you can buy, uh, information that you can gather and leverage. All of this is part of digital, and the amount of data obviously is mammoth. And this is what makes it very interesting. And this is also why digital industries have a very heavy reliance on analytics and data science, because the companies who do well are usually the companies who have been able to leverage their data. I mean, example being LinkedIn, Amazon, Google, obviously. uh, Talking about e-commerce a little more. So I'm not able to actually um, do both together. I mean, I'm able to just either screen share or look at the comments. So I'll keep on scrolling between the two. So as of now, I don't see any questions as such. Okay. So in an e-commerce company, typically you would have these functions. You will have a customer experience function. You will have a marketing team. You will have a pricing team. You will have a risk team, fraud prevention. You will have supply chain. You will have clickstream, which is very digital specific, which is essentially understanding journey of consumers on the website or on the mobile app, how they are browsing, how they are searching, how they are interacting with the products. uh, Financial operational teams, they exist in every company. Marketplace, most of the e-commerce companies have a marketplace structure as well. So a lot of seller related analytics, classical retail problems, what to sell, when to sell, how to sell, strategic decisions. Again, strategy is also something which uses analytics heavily these days. So these are just some of the teams that you would find in an e-commerce company. Now, next, I would take you through some of the example case studies that you would find in an e-commerce company. Just 4 or 5 of them, we'll quickly run through them. It will give you a flavor of what kind of problem statements are usually solved by analytics. So here is one example of that, a lot to do with customers. So obviously in digital world, understanding the consumer is key, because there is no physical uh, uh, interaction with involved here. It's all digital, and but at the same time, there's a lot of information which gets gathered when consumers interact, and that is what is something which companies leverage to make their products and services better. Customer segmentation is a very standard thing done in all the companies, but there are multiple ways that you can do that. So I've kept it very basic as well, and I've kept some very advanced examples as well here, just to give you the complete landscape of the kind of problems. So you could segment your customers by demography, for example, which is things like gender, age, location, size of wallet. And then the purpose is to understand what kind of consumers come to your, let's say if it's an e-commerce website, how do they interact, what is it that you need to focus on, who is liking your services, is it male more than female, is it a particular age group, are you more successful in a particular location, and things like those. By life cycle, you can classify your customer based on RFM, which stands for retail frequency monetary, which is essentially identifying your loyal customers versus one-time customers, and then accordingly customizing your services. For example, for your more loyal customers, you might want to do certain things differently. You might want to give some privilege to them for in return of the loyalty that they display towards your platform. So a lot of that is done through data, because how exactly you define who is a loyal customer. obviously new versus repeat customers. How do you understand them? What is driving new customers to the platform? What is making people stick to the platform? A lot of analysis around that. By behavior, so you will have customers who come on the desktop, you will have customers who come through the mobile app, you might have consumers who actually like to first look at products offline and then only come online. Understanding all of those behaviors, how much they react and respond to your emails, your push notifications, all of those are important things which tell you how you want to serve your customers better. And by persona, so you can classify your customers based on all these things that I just spoke about, as well as a lot of other behavioral data points that you would have to segment them into, let's say luxury buyers, discount seekers, and then accordingly you can customize your communication, your marketing, your offers. It's essentially step towards personalization, and more e-commerce platforms, they are turning towards this. It make the attempt is to make the whole experience very personalized, because because they have the history and they know what you have done in the past, which can be used to provide more relevant things in the future. That's the whole idea. Let's just go back and see if there are any questions. Not yet. Okay. I'll move on to the next slide. So now this is another interesting one. A lot of data science and analytics related work is around optimization. Now, optimization obviously is achieving a particular metric by playing around with a lot of constraints. Here is an example. So when you go to a browse page, so by browse page I mean on a website where you have all the products displayed, you will see the products displayed in a particular manner. You would, obviously there are thousands of shirts in this case which will be available on this particular page of Amazon, but they are being shown to you in a particular order. And obviously Amazon would like to show you products which are more relevant to you, which you are more likely to buy. But how do they choose, between thousands of products and what gets shown to you? So this is where optimization comes into play. Typically, they would be ranking algorithms which will be built using a lot of different factors, a lot of different features. If you would have heard the term feature engineering, where you define what are the important drivers for, let's say, conversion in this case, because so conversion is simply how many people see the product versus how many people buy it, and the platform would like that to be as high as possible. So the next step for them would be to see what drives conversion. It could be things like price of the shirt. It could be freshness of the shirt. It could be the brand. It could be ratings and reviews. It could be how quickly it can be delivered. There can be dozens of such factors. The next step would be to use all these factors into an algorithm to reach a rank for each product which gets shown to you as a consumer. So very complicated models, very deep models built over data collected over time, deep data sciences kind of problems, but also the most interesting ones. So eventually, if you just look at this and you break it down between how the problem is solved, it is more about understanding what drives conversion, which will come from historical data, which will come from historical trend, and that is where the whole analytics and data science will come into play. This is just one example of algorithm. There would be, I would say, on something like Amazon, you will have hundreds of algorithms running at one point of time. A lot of solutioning happens around building algorithms, building products, testing them, experimenting with them, modifying them, optimizing them. I'll move on to the next one. I'll just go back and again check if there are any questions. Okay, difference between BI, analytics, and data science. I'm coming to that. Just hold on. Questions about move to analytics. I'll come to that. So those two I will take up in a while. So it seems that it will be more useful for me to take career related questions and skill set related questions. So maybe I will skip a couple of case studies because they are time consuming. It takes a while for me to explain them. Otherwise, there's no point. So I'll just cover maybe one more. Uh, we'll cover this one. So this is essentially a case study where you would be required to forecast sales for an e-commerce company. Now, this would be very similar to what you would do for, let's say, an offline retail as well. Let's say if you are asked to create a target sales for the next 3 months based on how sales has been in the past. Typically, you will go about these kind of steps. You would develop a baseline. What has been the sales in last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. You will track those trends. You will try to separate out factors such as seasonality, whether there was any special occasions where sales could have gone up in the past, because then you will need to treat it differently in your data. You will include projectable market moving events. So if you know that there are certain changes which are going to happen in the near future, which could affect the sales. For example, there is a new mobile phone, which is, let's say, iPhone 7 or 8, whichever is the next one to be launched. And let's say as a platform, if you are somebody who sells it, then obviously you will need to take that into account and project it as an additional item over your whole prediction. You will also need to modify for your anticipated market trends and changes. For example, in India right now, you have the whole GST thing going on. I know it will be a difficult one, but I'm sure the e-commerce companies would have tried to predict what will happen to their sales once that comes into play. You will monitor competitive activities. If there are competitors who are more aggressive than you, who are pricing products cheaper than you, then that could have an influence on your sales. You will add any strategy or business plans to your forecast. If you plan to, let's say, make instead of taking 2 days to deliver a product, if you are planning to invest in logistics so that you only take 1 day to deliver, you will obviously get some goodness in sales because people are more likely to buy. So you will add things like those in your whole analysis. And then finally, you will adjust and put that as a forecast. Now, obviously, there will be sophisticated models that you will need to build here, most probably a time series modeling. And then once you have the output, it will be used by the companies for their targets, for their planning, to track how they are doing and whether they need to do something differently. So a very, very standard, I would say, requirement in big companies is to forecast, is to understand what best can be accomplished using past data. And that's, again, where analytics will have a role to play. So that was the third one. As I said, that I will not cover more case studies. I'm coming back to questions. Okay. So as I said that the questions are more about the career. So let me quickly. Actually, let me just take a couple of questions and then we'll go further. So so Pankaj, you said I have good knowledge of R and machine learning, and you are being part of Kaggle competitions. So question is, how can I find any internship or job in data analytics? So see, I would say, okay, let me just stop sharing for a moment so that the screen doesn't, distract. So see, I would say, yes, it's great that you already have knowledge of these things and you are actively participating in competitions. The question about job or internship is obviously something which I'm sure a lot of you would have, and I'm a little conscious of the fact because there is obviously no straightforward answer to it. It will definitely differ from person to person. What you are doing right now, whether you have experience, whether you are in a company where you have internal roles available, what is your educational background, a lot of factors. Whether you can actually take a break, do a formal study, and then join, or you're just looking to switch career. Let me put a couple of things, very, very straightforwardly. One, yes, analytics is a big market, and there are a lot of, I would say, demand for skilled analytics professionals. But when you see a lot of reports and when you see a lot of news in the media, I would also say it's a little bit of a misrepresentation, because uh, it's so a lot of what I read is about, okay, analytics has a lot of roles, so people should just upscale and switch. Yes, that's a great idea, but it doesn't work that straightforwardly, right? I mean, when you look at the way companies hire, uh, especially when you talk about, let's say, 2 to 3 years of experience or more than that, experience is usually the first thing that companies look at. There's absolutely no doubt about it, because companies generally do not have time to hire people who don't have experience and then train them. Now, at the same time, there is a shortage of experienced professionals because the demand is so high, and that's where there's this whole, I would say, gap, bit of an ironical gap, that there is supply. Maybe the supply is not qualified enough, or maybe the supply is not as per the roles. There is demand which is not getting fulfilled. There are people who are studying and trying to get into the industry, but there is a lot of friction in terms of how all these things match to each other. So that's where I would say things become a little bit tricky. My advice usually to people is that look at where you stand, and that's where I have a bit of a skill set mapping as well, which I will come to. And then depending on where you stand, your next step will vary. I would say easiest one is to move internally in your company if your company has such projects. It could be volunteering for the such projects if they exist. It could be taking guidance from somebody and slowly creating that move for yourself. A lot of companies do facilitate that, but I'm sure a lot of you would be in companies which are purely IT, or a lot of you would be students, so you will have a different scenario. So I'll come to that also. The second one I would say is to obviously look for roles once you have some confidence in your skills. And I would say, all of you would be aware on how to look for roles. You talk to consultants, you put your resume, you connect on LinkedIn, you talk to recruiters. All of those are things that any job seeker would do. So analytics is not any different. I would say the third is that in terms of defining analytics roles. So a lot of us have a particular definition of analytics, and it is about building fancy models, or it is about building deep data science kind of products. But I would say that's not what all it is, and those roles typically would be more difficult to get because they need experience. I would say the best strategy for those who are already working would be to look at roles which are closer to what you're doing right now, but they have a strong flavor of analytics as well. And I'm actually going to explain that as well in one slide. I'm just wondering whether I'll have enough time to do that, but I'll come to that. So some more thoughts in the coming slides. Um, could you tell us your journey from the technical point of view, how you started with that tech, with what technology initially? So, Sangeet, I think this answer will really differ from generation to generation, and I would consider myself probably a decade older than most of you. That's an assumption. That's a very gut feel kind of an assumption I've taken. So when I started, it was a very different scenario. Analytics was very new, and it was more of a coincidental kind of a move which happened. Uh, Over years, I learned technologies, most of them on the job, a lot of them through company sponsored trainings. And over time, what I've realized is that yes, technology is important, but you need to be very flexible with it. Once you learn it, let's say an SQL or a R, it should not take you any time to learn, let's say, a SAS or a Hive or a Python. I mean, general adaptability towards technology should be there. That's one. Second is when it comes to statistics and data science. That is something which again is a very, I would say, it's a subject which needs a bit of a knack of learning. It's a subject which you can forget very easily if you don't practice, if you don't apply it on your work, and therefore it needs to be learned in such a way that it can stick. And I mean, it happens so many times with me, even after so many years, that I struggle with simple problem statements around confidence intervals, whether the p-value needs to be higher than or lower than 0.005 or whatever it is. Every time, literally every time when it comes up, I have to just Google it and refresh my memory. Statistics is that kind of a subject. So what becomes important is an ability to apply it continuously, an ability to revise it continuously. I would suggest, instead of going very, very wide and trying to cover 20, 30, 40 modeling techniques, just focus on 5 of them initially, and get your fundamentals very, very strong. So you should be very comfortable with probability concepts, statistical significance, hypothesis testing, regression, clustering, decision trees. Sorry, some of these relatively, basic things which are very, very common in projects. You should be very good with this. Uh, and advanced Excel. Don't underestimate Excel. I would say it is something which will always give you a lot of benefit, because a lot of data still, in spite of so many years and in spite of so many other products, a lot of data still gets churned and analyzed in Excel. A lot of data goes out in Excel. So Excel stays. Excel is there to stay for a while. Python is something which is really, really important. So if you can learn that, that is very useful for a lot of automation and data science kind of projects. So those are the technologies and and statistics related skills that you need to build on. Uh, I would just go back to the slide. I have a couple of slides which are very important to answer some of the questions which are here, and therefore I want to cover that. So I'm sharing my. Okay, so assuming that my screen is now audible, visible, I would talk about the skills which need to be built for a career in analytics. Ability to structure problems using data. So, for example, we looked at the forecasting related example. Now, though it might sound very straightforward after going through it, but how do you really structure a lot of those things? How do you essentially define the flow of analysis, where you will extract your data, what time period you would take, how will you solve the real business problem there, how would you finally break it down to a level where it gives you the answers? A lot of logical thinking related questions. Second is programming, ability to extract, source, clean, manage data. And a lot of times when we talk about analytics, we focus on analysis more than the data part, right? I mean, we talk about models. We never talk about how do we extract data, how do we clean data. And that's again a bit of a, I would say, irony, because a lot of time in doing analytics goes in this part, which is understanding the data, how it is stored, what really it means, what are the exceptions to it, how to clean it, how to manage it, how to aggregate it, how to transform it. And this obviously is the raw material that you need for your analysis. So this is not done well, there is no way the modeling is going to work. So this needs to be like an expert level skill for analytics. Ability to analyze statistical concepts. I spoke about, have few techniques, but have them really strong. Also non-modeling analysis, things which you can do in Excel. There are a lot of problem statements which get solved in a non-modeling way even today, and those will continue to be like that, because you will always have problem statements which need quick answers, which need indicative answers. They don't need deep modeling. Ability to generate insights from the study. This is again something which is relatively ignored. So you essentially do a great job at modeling, but if you're not able to present it well, then or you're not able to extract the real information which you can, let's say, present to a management, which is also the next step, the ability to have a strong presentation skills, or the ability to really understand your data analysis, and then state what needs to be done, what is the outcome, what is the conclusion, what is the recommendation. If that part is not strong, the first three is just a waste. And also, what has been becoming more and more important is the ability to understand other stakeholders, work with them to create a business value. For example, if you do a project which essentially is a recommendation for logistics to work in a different way, most probably you will need to work with the business people in logistics, the product teams, the engineering teams in logistics, and you will need to really drive that change. I mean, that at least that is the expectation in a lot of companies today. Some companies do not go that far, and for them, analytics is just about reaching a stage where recommendation can be generated. But more and more, this is moving towards analytics playing an active role in actually making that change. A quick note on big data. A lot of questions keep on coming about how is big data related to analytics. So I would say yes, big data is very relevant, very real, has a lot of requirement as of today, but it's more of a data architecture, a technical IT kind of a subject. For analytics, it's just a different way of obtaining data. It's just more data, a bit of diverse data such as images, videos, audios. But when it comes to analysis and modeling, there are implications. For example, you can apply certain techniques better on big data compared to non-big data, but largely analytics is just a user of big data. You don't need to get too, I would say, overwhelmed by the whole big data subject. You just need to understand what value it adds to you as an analyst. You should be able to query that data, for which you might need to build some skills on Hive, Python. But apart from that, there is no big concern here, or there's no big gap that you need to fulfill. So I want to next cover this particular slide because this, I think, is probably the most important slide given the kind of questions I'm seeing. So some of you might be aware with this spider kind of a chart, and what I've done here is that I have listed down all the industries which I think is related to analytics, including analytics. And then I have drawn the skill sets required in that industry. The way to read this is that it's the industry listed on the corner node, and then the skills are in the colored lines, and it's essentially a scoring out of 5. So if BI is the industry, what I'm trying to say is that programming, which is this blue line, you need to be 5 out of 5 to do well in BI. It's basically trying to tell you what skill sets you need to have, which skill set is more important than the other. So let's quickly go through this. So let's talk about BI now that I've started on that. So business intelligence, which is essentially reporting, dashboards, making sure everybody in the company has access to data which is useful and well presented. You need to be really good at programming. Obviously, it's skill sets like SQL, ClickView, Cognos, Tableau. All of those come into play at this part. The next skill, which is not as important as programming but relatively important, is data architecture. You need to understand how tables are stored, what are different schemas, big data, non-big data, how do you transform, how do you do ETL. All of this comes under data architecture. And then the next is essentially skills which you need to probably have some knowledge, but not a lot. I mean, obviously, it doesn't hurt to have more knowledge than what is required, but just from a very technical point of view, you need to have some understanding of statistics and mathematics, project management, storytelling, business understanding. But mostly, I would say it's these two skills, BI and data architecture, that you need to be good at. Sorry, programming and data architecture. Now, if you talk about analytics, which is also the subject for our presentation, you will see that there are a lot of skills which are converging at around 3 or 4 out of, actually it's 3.5 out of 5. And this is, what the point which I want to convey, that analytics is not about one particular skill. It's about an amalgamation of these 4 5 skills which make or define an analytics professional. So programming, data architecture is the only one which is on a lower side, because you don't really need to, just the point which I made on the last slide, that big data, yeah, good to understand, but you really don't need to go deep into how it is created. Apart from that, business understanding, storytelling, project management, statistics, mathematics, all of that is important for analytics to do well. And that's why you see all of them at equal importance. Now, some of these you might be slightly surprised. I mean, something like project management and storytelling, you might think that it has a lower role to play. But I am definitely seeing that shift in the industry where analytics has to justify its presence by creating some value for the business, which cannot just be a model which recommends something. I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes that is what it is, but generally the expectation is for analytics to draw the next steps, to work with different teams, to influence other teams, and then lead that change. That's why I'm saying that these skills are equally important for somebody to do well, especially as you grow. Maybe first couple of years, not so much. You would probably be working in a team where your seniors do all of that. But more and more as you move ahead, you will need these skills. Now, if you think about data science, machine learning, AI, which is on this other corner, you would see that statistics take a very, very big jump here, and it's almost 5 out of 5, because data science is about deep modeling skills. The next one that you need is programming, because in data science and machine learning, you have to be really good at coding. And then it goes to data architecture and business understanding, and then project management and storytelling. So if you are deep into statistics, data sciences, machine learning, those kind of things, and you perceive yourself as somebody who can actually work on one single big problem for months and months, with a very, very head down kind of a mindset, then data science could be a field for you. Otherwise, if you are more of somebody who has a bouquet of skills, or who want to be more of a generalist person who is really good at analytics, then business analytics would be the role for you. Strategy, consulting, these fields need a lot of analytics, not very deep, but yeah, a lot of strategy is driven through data these days. And that's why if you are good at data, if you are good at understanding business, or if you are in a role where you are, let's say, in a business role, but you have inclination towards analytics, then something like strategy consulting could be very useful for you. Data engineering, this actually is a very good option for IT folks, who are really good at systems programming, because data engineering, especially when you talk about big data engineering these days, people who create databases in Hadoop or other big data technologies. That's probably, I would say, as popular or as hot a field as analytics. And if you are somebody who is into IT already, it might just be a better change for you, a more simpler change for you to make. Analytics, on the other hand, is very, very business focused, which generally IT doesn't give you exposure on. So the gap sometimes is too big to fill. So those are some of the fields which I would say are related to analytics. If you're learning analytics, you can do well in a lot of them, and it could be that you are better suited for one of them rather than analytics. So that is the assessment that you will need to do at your end. If you're good at programming, if you're good at just coding, then BI or data engineering. If you're really deep into statistics and things like Python and R, then data sciences. If you are more of somebody who has a variety of skills and would like to just keep it that way, keep learning things, keep moving industries, then analytics. If you're more of a business guy who is learning analytics, strategy, consulting, transformation kind of roles could work for you. So those are some of the alternates to business analytics that you should consider given your skill sets. So last slide before I move on to the questions. Tips to strengthen your profile. Do not wait for opportunities to come by. So yeah, I mean, I know it will sound a little rubbish, but essentially, yes, finding a job has its own lag time, has its own factors which could lead to it sometimes taking a lot of time. I would say one thing that you will need to just continue doing is learning and applying it. So you should be able to get more functional. Ideally, you should be, you know, um, one. Okay, let me put it this way. One, you need to let's say if you are in some particular function today. Let me just pick. I'm given an. I'll give you my own example. I mean, I handle pricing today, but when I say pricing, it's not just pricing analytics. I actually handle the technology, operations, and other related stuff in pricing as well. Uh, Essentially, what I've become is a more functional pricing guy who can handle pricing end to end. Similarly, whatever field you are in, let's say if you're in marketing, if you are in strategy, you will need to look at opportunities to apply analytics to it. Now, obviously, it doesn't come easy. It depends on which company, what kind of clients you have, whether you have that opportunity and time or not. But that's just one option I'm saying. A lot of people move into analytics after doing some analytics in their current roles, because that, one, it gives them some visibility. Second, it gives them some confidence. Get more holistic. Do not underestimate non-technical skills. So I spoke about storytelling, project management. These are skills where you would, for which you will not find a lot of material or a lot of trainings. But as long as you're aware of it, and you are consciously working towards it in some way, it will help you in the longer run. If you're not in the industry, but you're looking to get into it, I would suggest the first thing you do is a skill set mapping. Uh, the chart which I showed on the last slide, that exactly was the purpose, for you to understand where lies your strengths right now, where lies your weaknesses, so that you can work on that. You can build skills which you lack, but you should also choose to leverage skills that you already have. I mean, you would agree that it's very difficult to make a complete 180 or a 360-degree turn rather than, small deviations towards analytics or towards roles into analytics. So I would I would strongly recommend that you look for something where you can continue leveraging your existing skills. And there are a lot of roles which actually need a fusion, you know, which need you to be, let's say, good at IT, but also understand analytics, because that's what maybe the product that you are building is supposed to do. There are roles maybe where you need to be really good at marketing, but you also need to have knowledge of how Google Analytics work, because that makes you better as a marketing professional. So look for such kind of roles where, it's not necessary a data analytics roles, because at the end of the day, they will be very specific, limited roles, though there are a lot of them. But if you just widen your horizon a bit, it becomes better for you. And it could also be a journey where you start with a role which is not purely analytics, but you slowly get into it. So analytics anyways is becoming something which is more of a standard requirement for all professionals, whether they are into analytics or not. A lot of management guys learn analytics these days. I'm sure some of you would already be doing that, or would already be in management. A lot of I've seen a lot of government professionals today these days doing analytics, because they know that they can apply it in their work to make their departments or make whatever they are doing better. So a lot of people just learn analytics because they want it to be applied in their industry, in their domain, in their function. They might not be doing it themselves, but it makes them much stronger in terms of somebody who can drive that. And that is also absolutely fine and a valid reason to understand analytics and educate yourself on analytics. Now I know a lot of you would still be thinking that how to get into analytics. So let me just go back and see what kind of questions we have here, and then I'll try to answer some. Just going. In fact, I'm just stopping screen sharing and coming back to this. Okay. Okay, a lot of you are saying that you are a Java programmer or an uh, IT kind of professionals. How do I leverage my skills of a Java programmer in analytics? Okay, whether or not there is any scope also. So okay, see, I'm not really an IT guy, so I don't know a lot about different languages. I would say that it instead of looking at it in such a specific way, just look at what opportunities you have in hand. If you are into a company which allows you to internally move, which gives you internal opportunities, look for it. If not, just okay, maybe you can't apply your Java skills anywhere, but then in that case, you will need to build new skills. Uh, when I meant, leveraging your existing skills, it doesn't necessarily mean the exact programming skill that you are doing today. You need to apply that. I meant it could be the business domain specific experience you have. It could be about particular problems, projects that you have worked on, which you can leverage. So there's a whole range of what you can leverage. I mean, if you've been in the industry for a while, I'm sure there are a lot of things which you can leverage in terms of to move to a different role which has analytics kind of a flavor. Difference between data science and data analytics, that's a good question. See, I would say there are it's one a few years back, these two things were used interchangeably. Now today the segregation is very clear. Data science is much more deeper. Data science professionals will be usually who have been studying statistics, machine learning in their education for quite a while. They would have done projects in it. They would have assisted on projects on it, and they would be somebody who are very very focused and niche in that area. Uh, Typically, data science problems are also very very specific and deep. So, for example, the algorithm example, the algorithm that we spoke about. Let's say if Amazon today has to build an algorithm like that, it would probably be a 6 months, 9 months kind of a project where you expect data science to come into picture because it needs to be really, really, really precise, and each and every statistical point is important in how the algorithm is built. So for that knowledge, that depth, projects that need that kind of a knowledge and depth, data science comes into play. Analytics, on the other hand, is a little more, across the board. So analytics will do small problem solving as well as big models. It depends on the company, it depends on the client, it depends on what kind of project is there. But don't be surprised if you see a lot of analytics professionals just doing automation, reporting, basic ad hoc analysis in Excel, which is absolutely fine. I mean, it analytics doesn't, as I said earlier, it doesn't necessarily means modeling. But analytics professionals are usually very, very, I would say, or needs to be very, very flexible. Today, maybe you get a question from the business where they just give you 3 days and you need to do some quick turnaround analysis. But tomorrow, maybe they come up with a deeper question where you need 3 months of modeling. So the key is that you need to be comfortable with both. And that's where the difference between data science and analytics is. Data science people, you will not see them building dashboards. You will not see them doing small analysis here and there just because somebody in the business needs it. They will only focus on the one or two projects that they've been asked to do. Whereas analytics is more problem solving, generic problem solving, day-to-day problem solving. Some of them will be big projects, some of them will be really crucial, deep problems, but it's a whole variety. Um, I have a total of 12 years of experience in IT, but no analytics and statistics background. Should I start with MS Excel? Well, yeah, you have some ground to cover, Nalin, and I would suggest that you at least need 6 months, 1 year of learning to kind of get comfortable with what analytics is about. So yes, Excel is a good to start, but Excel is something which essentially everybody uses today. I mean, even people in business are very very comfortable with Excel. So Excel is like not even the entry level of analytics. So you will have to build your skills further if you are serious about it. and it will take you a while. It will take you easily 6 months to 1 year before you start making some progress in it. I would say don't necessarily look at it as a forced option. Give it a try. Do some short courses, do some short trainings, see if you enjoy it, see if you think it is something which you want to do over a longer period of time, and then take a call. Don't basically rush into it just because it is something which you think is going to be is the career to get into. Okay, I'm just trying to see what other questions are there. Okay, so Udeshya, skills are useless if you don't have jobs. A recession has arrived due to change in US policies by Trump. Is data analytics gonna sail or sink? Well, I don't think I am qualified enough to answer that question. I mean, it's such an economy based question that let me just okay. Sorry, just give me a moment. Okay, I was just trying to get back to the webcam, but it's okay. So yeah, what I was saying is that yes, definitely the world is very shaky these days when it comes to such things. There are things which happen. There's no doubt about it. There are jobs which are at risk. There are jobs which get automated, and I would say analytics is no exception. So be aware that a lot of analytics jobs can also be automated, especially where they are very monotonous or where they are very unidimensional. But in general, analytics right now looks very bright, mainly because one, it's a new industry. I don't think companies have completely leveraged it. There are a lot of companies who are just, in fact, starting to use it. For them, it's a big ground to cover before they can actually start automating those jobs. Yes, sometimes you can just automate and not invest into analytics at all, but those will be some problems given the kind of dynamics the world is in today, given the kind of uncertainties, or given the kind of, I would say, there's so many problems which business have in their hand. Any big business you pick up, there is so much happening at a point of time. There's so much of data available. There are so many things changing. You need analytics teams to essentially make sense out of things, because management, strategy, technology, all these things cannot work until they have a very strong sense of what they should do. And that sense comes from analytics. So as of now, I don't see the field fading away. I definitely see some jobs getting automated, a more clear segregation between analytics and data sciences and BI, and though each of them will evolve in a particular way, but the industry for now looks good to me. I mean, yeah, it might still not be straightforward to get into it. And if you just think about it from a recruiter point of view, yes, experience is something which is important. I mean, I would say I have gone through very little formal training, and a lot of what I have done is on the job. But yeah, you need to get on the job, which is where the whole problem comes, because unless you get a job, you can't start on the job learning, right? But the best you can do until you find a job is to continue learning, continue reading, continue finding more about it, volunteer for projects if you have them in your company or even outside, find a mentor if you can. uh, uh, a lot of forums, lot of online forums where you can involve yourself, a lot of case studies that you can solve by downloading data from internet. So I would say, as I mentioned earlier, that I can't give you a solution to get a job, and I don't think that is something which was the objective of this presentation. uh, all I would say is that uh, the whole learning or the whole knowledge building is a step towards it. I mean, nobody can guarantee you job. I mean, not me, not anybody else. You might study for years and you might still not get it, and sometimes you study for 3 months and you get it. So there are obviously a lot of factors into play. So which is something which I can't influence. You can influence to some extent, but yeah, I would agree that it also depends on the market, adaptability of the companies, demand at that point of time. But that holds good for any job, any industry, any skill. I mean, you take that leap of faith, you think that you can do well in it, you start studying, you feel comfortable about it, you feel good about it, and then you figure out ways. So that happens over a period of time. So I would say you have to take that journey. There is no way that you can stand outside and decide whether you need to take the journey or not. I mean, yeah, you can definitely choose not to get into it if you think it's not for you, or if you think your skills are better suited for something else. But otherwise, if you are interested, if you are somebody who likes that as an industry, you have enough information to believe that, then the only way is to try learning and then taking a call and then looking for jobs. Okay, I'm just trying to see what are the questions. We are almost there in terms of time. Uh, do you think company would employ Sangeet? Do you think company would employ someone without being a PhD or master degree holder in data science? I can say this with 100% surety that the answer is yes. I have a commerce background. I have a CFA. I have not done any formal data science courses. Data science and analytics is something which very formally is kind of new. Yeah, I mean, there were some universities, some courses which were always doing it, or which were doing it from a while, like Indian Statistical Institute or whatever. But largely it's still a very untapped area when it comes to educational degrees and uh, 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 PhDs. So yeah, I mean, if you're a PhD or a master degree holder, yes, you have a better chance. Most probably, if you've done it from a good institute, you will get placed from there itself. If you don't, then the road is a little more difficult. You still need to do learnings, in whatever form they come in, whether it's online courses, whether it's companies like UpGrad or others. So companies, I would say companies do hire non-PhDs and non-master degree holders, but there are a lot of other criteria. There are obviously skills that they assess. They look at what you have done in the past. They look at how well you will do in that role. So all those things remain the same. But yeah, education is not the criteria there. In fact, a lot of people in analytics, you would just find engineers, MBAs, commerce guys. It's pretty much there's not a very strong correlation with what they have studied and what they are doing today, which actually holds good for a lot of other roles as well. But analytics, I can surely say that. Okay. Uh, right. So we are, in terms of time, we are almost there. I will just pick one more question, and then I will hand it over to Ravi. I'm looking for the last question here. Okay, I'm just trying to see if there's a question which which is a little different than what I have covered so far. So okay, Santosh. I'm a BA in an IT firm, but I do not have any programming skills. Can I pursue my career in data analytics? So see, I don't know how many years you have spent in the IT firm. So BA is obviously about requirements gathering and defining use cases for product development. It's different from analytics, no doubt about it. So I would say if you are fresh into it, then maybe the change will be easier if you start early, because companies generally have more adaptable approach to or more, I would say they're more open to people who have lesser experience, and if they have studied analytics, because they know that they can nurture them. They know that the person doesn't come with a very big baggage of the old industry. But if you're somebody who has spent 8, 9, 10 years into your current role, then it becomes difficult. Then you will again need to go through the complete, I mean, you anyways need to go through the complete journey, but I'm saying that all the other points which I mentioned, that assess your skills, start learning, assess again whether you are doing well, look for opportunities in your company, look for guidance, look for voluntarily projects, all of those things you will need to do. Um, so yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of you would be partially or fully disappointed that there's no getting the job kind of a tip here. But again, as I'm saying that the idea of the whole learning is for you to be ready for the job, not the other way around. And the only chance you have to get the job is to do the learning. But is that sufficient or not? Nobody knows. Over time, you will figure out, and that's the only way to go about it. I mean, uh, careers do happen over a period of time, and sometimes they are slow, sometimes they are fast, sometimes they need you to try out a lot of things before you find something which you really like doing, and something which you're really good at. So I would say, do not hesitate. Education usually never goes waste. Even if you spend some money, time, investment, hard work, I can assure you that analytics is something which you will not feel that you have wasted your time. You eventually get a job or not is something which again depends, but it will be a good journey for you to take, irrespective of whether you eventually make into the dream role or not. You will definitely learn something which will stay with you for a while, and which will help you in your career one way or the other. That much I can assure you. um, so with that, given that we are 5 minutes above the time, I would like to hand over back to Ravi to see what he has to say as conclusions. So Ravi, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Puneet. Thanks a lot for that very informative session, that very insightful session, and patiently answering all variety of questions. I think yeah, we have overshot by about 5, 6, 7 minutes because primarily because you guys had such good questions, and thank you for such a good response in terms of turnout as well. Uh, Before I close, I'd just like to say a couple of things. Like Puneet said, obviously, getting no one can guarantee a job, but then what you can do is take advantage of this opportunity, which is analytics, and sort of position yourself better because opportunities are there in huge numbers. Pretty much all industries. At the forefront, of course, is e-commerce, but then pretty much a variety of industries are waking up to the power of analytics. IT is also yet another industry which is now going through at some sort of tectonic shifts in terms of what kind of work they used to do and what kind of work that's now supposed to do going forward. So if you guys are at all interested, I hope that does give you, first of all, I hope that does give you good sense of why analytics is important and why it presents such a huge opportunity. If you guys are interested in taking up in learning analytics and sort of building a career in it, uh, UpGrad has a 11-month course. This is in collaboration with Triple IT Bangalore. This is not just an online course. This is a proper academic program in collaboration with Triple IT Bangalore. This is a 11, as said before, this is a 11-month course. It takes you from the basics of analytics, business of statistics, mathematics, and all the way up to big data, predictive analytics, and machine learning. And I think at the cherry on top is the fact that you get a postgraduate diploma from postgraduate diploma in data science from Triple IT Bangalore. So do remember to check out this course on our website. Do check out the details of this course. We have already have 3 batches doing the course simultaneously. We are going to start our next batch in the month of October, and admissions are now underway for that batch. So if you guys are interested, please do go on UpGrad's website. Please visit that website and fill out an application. Filling out an application is obviously free of cost. You'll have to just take a test, which generally happens on weekends, and then you can enroll for the course. That being said, I think that's pretty much what I had to say. Thanks a lot, Puneet, again for taking time out and doing this and helping us clarify a lot of things in the field of analytics. Thanks a lot, everyone, for taking time out on a Sunday. I know it must be tough as a working professional. Thanks a lot for that and attending this session. I hope this was useful to you. And in case you guys have any other doubts, you need any more clarification, or you just get in touch with us in terms of analytics or career related advice, feel free to drop us a line or contact us through our website. Thanks a lot, everyone. Again, thanks a lot, Puneet, and have a great day.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Have a nice rest of the Sunday.